Summer has arrived. The feeling of grills and grilling out, sitting by the pool, relaxing, getting acquainted with a good book while sitting in the sun and tanning, of course. And, of course, the chapters that are baseball in the summer. We witnessed something in this country, though, for the last 13 weeks, the last 34 days. It was absolutely amazing in professional soccer with the FIFA World Cup. And Spain lifts the trophy. Can soccer continue the momentum? But this now leads us to the second half of the baseball season as the MLB All-Star Game has come and passed. We're now 3 games in, or some areas 4 games in to the playoff, to the second half of the season. And boy, oh boy, it's going to be a run for the roses. Fantilli has not signed. Neither has Cole Sillinger or Jet Greaves, but the schedule has been released. We'll talk about the NHL schedule. We'll also dive in to the Open Championship that took place. And we have a new champion for the Greater Toledo Classic. And I'll share my opinion about that here in just a second. Of course, it's been a while since I last talked to you. It was June. We're into July. We're into the second half of the baseball season. In less than 2 weeks, we begin the journey that is the NFL preseason and training camp. And then college football begins. Eddie's got a lot to look forward to this season. And Andy's got a lot to cover right here on the All Andy Alford Podcast Network. Right here, as for the first time in a long time, it is truly great to say, I love you guys. And a very pleasant good evening to you, and welcome into another edition of All Andy Alfred, right here on your exclusive home for me, and that is with the plethora of platforms with the All Andy Alfred Network, and that is with either Apple Music, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Bleaker, however you listen to our podcast, wherever and whenever you listen to us. Thank you so much for tuning into the podcast tonight, as well as watching us on our YouTube channel. Yes, the YouTube channel is live right here on youtube.com/allandyalfred. As you're listening, like I said, listening to us on the plethora of the platforms right here. On this, the 19th day, almost said the 20th, the 19th day of July, 2026. It is a true pleasure to be back with you here in the studios, talking sports, talking about life, and talking on All Andy Alfred. Yes, as I am back, recharged, ready to go for this long run. And we'll get into some housekeeping here in just a few seconds. But we got a lot to cover tonight. We've got, of course, my feelings on the first half of the baseball season. We'll take a look at the Tigers' schedule, as well as the Guardians, Reds, as well as the rest of Major League Baseball. We have one game still in progress. As I'm watching it here in the studio right now, the Yankees are up 2-1 on the Dodgers. Dodgers took Game 1 of the double dip in Game 1 today. In Game 2, the Yankees are battling it right now in the bottom of the 8th inning, winning 2-1. But I digress. We'll talk baseball. We're going to talk baseball. We're going to talk about the Mud Hens as well. And a big weekend that it was down at Fifth Third Field, as 3 major leaguers made their rehab starts for the Gwinnett Stripers, not for the Toledo Mud Hens. We'll talk about that as well. Also, on Thursday, it was released. The NHL schedule has been released. We'll take a look at the schedule from around the league, of course, and we'll take a look at the Blue Jackets schedule as well. And we will also dive in. We'll go fully in depth with the Blue Jackets as well too in our Jackets roundup. Not really any new news to talk about regarding the walleye, so we're going to pass on the walleye. Of course, the big thing, coming up in the next few weeks is that this inline hockey is going to be starting at the Huntington Center. To be honest with you, I hope it has success, but I'm just seeing this as going to probably be another failing opportunity. I really, really do. And I'll get to my Andy rants about that later on in the podcast about that, and a couple other topics I want to talk about as well too. Also, we'll talk about the Open Championship that took place, as we have a new champion. Scotty Scheffler has to give up the Claret Jug to a new champion over there in England. So welcome into the podcast. You can always be a part of the show by following us on Twitter. It is at AllAndyAlfred. It is at AllAndyAlfred, as well as Facebook.com/AllAndyAlfred. And you can always be a part of the podcast. So go ahead, send your comments, questions, and you can also post a comment right here on our on the show, right here on the YouTube channel as well too. Wish it was gin. Cold water. Delicious. So, where have I been? Well, I've been taking some time off, of course, getting myself recharged and ready to go for the second half of this baseball season to get us to the push to the playoffs, of course, and to talk more about sports as well to you, the fans, and you, the listener. Well, we're going to incorporate more of that into the spectrum. We're going to have some guests on. Of course, we get ready for the NFL preview edition, which will be coming up. Of course, we'll have our good friend Robert Logie Bear Carr, to join us on the podcast, as well as our good friend Phil Bennett will be joining us for that show as well. Also, we're going to have, some guests here and on, sprinkled here and there on the podcast as well throughout the season going forward. And yes, we are doing now 2 shows. We'll be doing a show Sunday night right here on this podcast network. Sunday night to recap the weekend that was before we get into the NFL season. And then once the NFL season begins, we'll go back to our normal time slot, which will be Tuesdays and Thursdays, to get you ready to recap the weekend and to preview the weekend as well. So Sunday nights from now until the NFL season, there'll be a podcast. And there will always be now a show on Thursday night. It will be on this channel on YouTube. Now, Facebook Live, we will have opportunities for Facebook Live, of course. We are talking about bringing back the Falcon Friday editions of All Andy Alfred to get you ready for just talking all college football and also recapping the high school football scores. And we're going to talk about high school football as well too on this program. We're looking to get a couple guests on to talk a little bit about high school football as well. So there's that. So we're looking to that as well too. So another thing I want to bring a mention to of this. A lot of you were asking me on different social media platforms where the Greater Toledo Classic is taking place. Are you going to be doing this podcast during the Greater Toledo Classic? Now, I may mention this before a couple years ago when the announcement that the LPGA was not coming back to Highland Meadows Golf Course and they were going to bring the Espen Tour and the quote-unquote LPGA Legends to Toledo for this tournament, and we decided we are going to scratch doing the shows there. Now, we are now less than 300 days now out from the U.S. Women's Open that's going to take place at Inverness Golf Course. It is going to be taking place in the month of June, the first weekends in June, so look to us doing a full preview, recap. We're going to be on the course. We're going to be there for all 4 days of the tournament, as well as the preview, which will be on that Wednesday night at Inverness Club. Look to that. We are getting our credentials set up for that through Spotify, as well as through a couple other channels as well. So there is that. That's number one on regarding of the LPGA and the U.S. Women Open. And again, number two, we do not cover any of this. We're not going to cover the Greater Toledo Classic. And I'm going to get into that right now here in a little bit about that once we get into the golf segment of the podcast. The fact that this tournament was stretched out to only 36 holes would not mean that we would be having no content Friday for you guys. And with it only being a 3-day tournament, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, it cuts a lot of our time for the podcast to do. So that's why we scratched it. That's why we didn't do it. And I know that there's a lot of people from around the world that listen to our podcast to get the LPGA news and the notes from their players from their countries. I mean, I look at our demographics. We get people from Germany, from Austria. We get people from Ireland. We get people from Thailand, from Japan. We get all these that want to listen to our coverage on the LPGA. We're going to give you coverage here on this podcast. And I'm going to tell you this straight up. I love watching and covering the LPGA. It's probably one of my favorite leagues to cover when it comes to golf. Of course, the PGA is there. LIV is dissolving, of course. The Corn Ferry's great. The DP World Golf is also as well. But the LPGA for me is fantastic. And I know that the ESPN Tour is a great tour for those players to get their LPGA card. But a lot of them are just starting out in their careers. So we're not going to focus in on that. We want them to hone their craft and to care about the game more than anything else. So that's why we did not cover the Greater Toledo Classic, and we are not going to cover it. We're going to congratulate the winner, who is Pancake Webb. That's her last name. Won the tournament over at Highland Meadows in a 36-hole tournament because Friday was canceled because of the Canadian wildfire smoke. And then Saturday they played 18 holes. And today was the final day of the tournament at Highland Meadows. And to be honest with you, you lose a day of revenue from Friday. You lose a day almost, you shove everything in on Saturday. It's not a really good thing. And then today was family day, which gave you free admission, free parking, and a buy one, get one on hot dogs. You're not really, I know you're a 501c, that you want to make all the charity and you make all the money for the charities and everything like that, but the revenue wasn't there for this tournament. And I think because there is no LPGA golfers, like the big names like the Gabby Lopez's and the Nelly Cordas or the Brooke Hendersons or the Lilia Vu or the Alison Corpus or anything like these great players, they're not going to bring the revenue in. It also affects the fact that Sylvania is getting torn up right now. You can't get to Highland Meadows very, very easily because of the fact that the Monroe Street and Alexis Road Bridge is closed. You can't go east. You can't go west when it comes to that. You basically got to go all the way out your way, down Central Avenue, all the way out of your way, just to get to the parking lot to park at, and then they have to bus you in. Which you're losing revenue for all those residents that live within that confine. I know for a fact that I've listened to people that are at that church right there at the corner, and they have told me that this year it was a down year. It's been a down year the last 2 years because of the fact that there's no LPGA golfers coming to Highland Meadows. Sure, the Legends last year was great when you had Stacey Lewis that was going to play there, but at the same time, it's not going to fill. It's not going to fill what you would get with these great LPGA golfers coming in. So I push Judd Silverman, I push Jim Heller, and I push all those that are involved with this. Since the U.S. Women's Open is at Inverness, I'm going to say it, and I hate to say this. I think you need to take a year off. Put all your resources into this. And then on Friday, they had Thursday, they had a campaign at Levis Square. The Inverness Club they got the chance to bring in the U.S. Women Open Championship trophy. And the USGA was there. They love the facility. They love Inverness. They love the community because it was the highest grossing for the LPGA in the Solheim Cup. I'll give you that. So that was huge. Last year at Riviera was a huge turnout. They want to make it bigger. And I know Toledo can do it. And they're going to need the community support. They're going to need volunteers. And they're going to need everybody to, step up to the plate. Step up to the plate and do it. So I think the city can do it. And the Yankees just beat the Dodgers 2-1, as that has now just gone final. So we'll talk more about baseball. But again, so if you're looking for the coverage for the Greater Toledo Classic, we are not covering it right here. And I would love to see the LPGA come back to Highland Meadows to play and bring the professionals back to Toledo so that we could see the best in the world compete at our golf course, at Highland Meadows Golf Course in Sylvania. Plain and simple. Plain and simple. Plain and simple. So there's that. Want to get into it, of course. The Open Championship took place this past weekend, as we're going to lead with golf before we get into baseball, of course. And if you look at what the final, you had Scotty Scheffler making the run that he usually does. And he does a fantastic job, as the defending champion. Watching all his rounds this past weekend, I thought he did fantastic. But that course is very, very daunting. It's a links course. And to his game, finishing 7 under par, shooting a 268, a 70 in round 3, which is even par, and a 67 today. He makes up ground. But Ryan Fox does a fantastic job. He shoots a 72 in round 1, 2 over par. He then capitalizes and shoots a 68 to get to 2 under par for his second round, even for the day, and then drops a 62 in round 3. He did a fantastic job on Friday. I watched that round that he had. He was hitting the cover off that golf ball, and then today shoots a 68 to finish 10 under par. Fox did a fantastic job. Cameron Burge, again, another straight good tournament for him. 67. He shoots a 73 in round 3. He struggled there, but he shoots a 64 in round 4. Unbelievable. Again, Sam Burns, 8 under par for third. 72, shoots a 62. And, we were on, there was a lot on this tournament. They were making the run for 59. A lot of them were making the run for 59. There's only one person that's done it in the last year. That's been close. And they're playing in the LPGA. And that's why they're the best players in the golf. That's why. And they're playing for the tops. Tommy Fleetwood, the local kid, finishes 7 under par. Tied for 4th with Scotty Scheffler. Ludwig Olberg, my guy, tied for 9th. 5 under par. Ryan Gerard, 5 under par as well, too. Adam Scott, 5 under par, too. Lucas Herbert, 6 under par for the round. 70, 62, 71, and 71. Now, the big question out of this was Bryson DeChambeau. And I love Bryson. Even though he's in LIV, I've loved Bryson. I liked Bryson when he was in the PGA. I like him now in the LP with LIV, and now he's going to come back to the PGA to play once LIV dissolves. I look at it as, he had a great round, finished tied for 14th with the names of Corey Connors, Hideki Matsuyama, and Sunjing in. And Bryson 67, 68, 69, and 72. Now 68, he shot a 66 on Friday. Before rules officials found out that he improved his lie and took a 2-stroke penalty. He was absolutely livid. Didn't want to talk to the media. Didn't want to post anything. Didn't want to talk to anybody about it. And I say to that, why would you want to talk? Why would you? Why would you want to talk about it? Because you're frustrated. And you were pleading your case to the rules officials. You were pleading your case, saying, hey, I'm not touching the ball. I'm not improving the lie. Where do you want me to hit it? And I love it that the fact that, Golf Channel went out to where he shot it at and proved it, that he did not improve his lie. But they still give him the 2-shot penalty out of it. And there was talks of him walking out on the tour, withdrawing because of the actions that happened with what happened at the Open, with what happened in the second round. And when I heard that, I was like, there is a chance to basically take your ball and leave. He was going to take the ball, the clubs, the flag, everything, and leave. And he has absolutely the right way to do it. Absolutely. I am not going to complain about it. I am not going to complain about it. I am not. I'm not going to complain about it. But yeah. So yeah, again, Ryan Fox, the winner at Royal Birkdale in the Southport of England, the winner of the Open Championship. It is good to have the new champion, and we'll see what happens. Now they'll transition and come back to the States and play. A lot of them were playing between the Scottish Open and the British Open, and then in 2 weeks the Women's British Open takes place. We'll be covering it right here on All Andy Alford. I'm going to tell you that right here, right now. We're going to cover it from start to finish. So there's that. So the Open Championship, and then you have golf still taking place with the PGA as Stefano Mazzaro of Italy wins the Cora Percha Championship as well, getting his first PGA Tour victory. But again, the Open Championship is what the big one was. Now, next week, they will head to the 3M Championship, which is the 23rd through the 26th. And then it will be the Rocket Classic for the final time in Detroit, July 30th through August 2nd. And again, I will say this again. I will report this to you guys that this is the final year for the Rocket Classic at Detroit's Country Club, because Rocket Mortgage has decided not to update and to re-up the opportunity to do the PGA event in Detroit. But again, I bring it up again with this. We're losing golf. The big names and the big games in this region, the Great Lakes region. So there's that. So that's our golf coverage. That's all our golf coverage. Of course, today also you have the finals of the World Cup that took place, and in extra time today, the Spaniards beat the Argentinians 1-0 to win the trophy. So it's Spain first, Argentina second, and England beats France in the third place game. England finishes in third. The United States was eliminated in the round of 16 by Belgium. They looked absolutely terrible in it. They looked absolutely terrible. But I'm hoping that this momentum can carry into MLS play, into play. So I'm hoping for that. I'm hoping the game grows stronger and stronger and stronger. So there's that. And it was a great tournament to watch. A lot of good games, a lot of great countries, and to see the world come to the United States and embrace our culture. They love every minute of it. Our little small towns. They love our food. Hell, a lot of them are taking ranch dressing back. I've watched a couple people from Britain say that mac and cheese in the United States is totally a lot better than it is in Great Britain. That's great to hear because the food in Britain is terrible, and that's why they all eat French food. So there's that. And number two, a lot of people are finding out that that Americans are friendly, and we're not that people that are stubborn like some of our politicians and some of our other people in this country believe that in the world believe that we are. So there is that for you guys. So again, I thank FIFA, and I thank all the 11 cities that came and did this tournament. They did a fantastic job. Congratulations. And we hopefully get the World Cup again back in the United States. They were hoping in 2030 or 2034. We'll see. We'll see how it all shakes out. But let's get into it. Let's talk some more sports as you're listening and watching All Andy Alford tonight right here on the All Andy Alford Podcast Network, whether it be on Apple Music, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Bleaker, however you're listening to us, wherever and whenever you're listening to us. Thank you so much for tuning into the podcast tonight, as well as on our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/AllAndyAlford. And remember, our good friends down at the Libby Factory Outlet Store, 205 South Erie Street in the Warehouse District. Yes, my friends, it has come to time. Fall is upon us. Besides the United States celebrating its 250th year, fall has arrived at the Libby Factory Outlet Store. Stop down to get your fall glassware, whether it be pumpkin glassware or fall leaves, as well as the famous glass pumpkins. Come down to the Libby Factory Outlet Store, open 7 days a week, Monday through Friday, 9:30 to 5:30 p.m., as well as on Saturday when the farmers market is open from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., as well as on Sunday, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. 205 South Erie Street in the Warehouse District, right at the old Erie Street Market. Remember, it's Libby, Libby, Libby on the label, and they will set your table right for more. They have set the table right for more than 150 years. All right, let's get right into it. Of course, the Tigers. Let's talk a little baseball. Tigers on a big West Coast swing as they went to LA to take on the Angels, and they pound out the Angels and take 2 of 3 for the series against the Halos, winning 2-1 on Friday night, and then putting the shellacking on Mike Trout and the Angels 7-0 over them. Unfortunately, this afternoon, they could not get the series sweep as they fall to the Angels 3-2. Now a huge series going into the north side of Chicago this week as the Tigers will head to play the Cubbies in a 3-game series. 8:05 first pitches tomorrow, Tuesday, and an 8:10 first pitch on Wednesday. They will then return home for a 4-game series with the Royals, a 3-game series with the Orioles, and then a 4-game road trip. And this series right here in August is a huge series, a huge road trip. Here's why I say that. They'll have 3 against the Sacramento Athletics, 3 in Seattle with the Mariners, and then 3 with the Giants, before they have a tough home stretch with 3 against the Guardians and 3 against the White Sox. If they are for real, like Terrence Skubal is saying that he wants to stay with Detroit, and he wants to stay with Detroit, And I want the Illich family to put the check in front of him, in front of Boris, and say, what's the number and what's the year? If you are really committed to this organization, sign it. Don't lie to us. Because, everybody's looking for pitching. You've got Philadelphia that's looking for pitching. You have the Yankees that could be looking for pitching. You have the Mets that are looking for pitching. You have the Braves that are looking for pitching. If he does not re-sign with the English D and he walks at trade deadline time, it is a slap in the face for him saying, "Oh, I want to stay with the organization. I want us to be a contender." If we are a buyer, you have to sign the deal. And then we will make the moves to get bring a championship to the Motor City when it comes to that. If he doesn't want to commit, sell it. I'm just saying, sell it. Because if he says that he's committed to it and he wants it, then what's holding it up? Take the hometown discount. If you want to win a championship in the city of Detroit for baseball, take the small pay cut or take whatever deal you want to take. Here's why. I said take whatever you want to take. But remember, if you take a lot, our cupboards are going to be bare. So bear with you on that. Bear with you with that. So right now, with the Tigers taking 2-3 against the Angels in a big 3-game series with the Cubs, Tigers are sitting at 46-53. They're still under 500. But they're 6.5 games out of first place and 4.5 games out of a wild card spot. In the words of Lloyd Christmas. So you're saying there's a chance? Because right now, the White Sox have been struggling. They have been seriously struggling. They just won today. The Guardians losing the series against the Pirates, and we'll get to the Guardians here in just a second. Minnesota was rocking off wins, and now they're in the funk. They're 6-4 in their last 10. The Tigers are 7-3 in their last 10 games. They are 6.5 games out, 4.5 out of a wild card spot. Their run differential is a plus 31. The White Sox run differential is a plus 45. Give you that. Tigers at home have a better record than they are on the road. They're 27-28 against teams greater than 500 this season. So there's that for you guys. Right now. So now let's get into the Guardians. The Guardians welcome Paul Skeens and the Pittsburgh Pirates for a 3-game series and lose that series 2-3, losing Friday night in game 1 of the doubleheader 7-1. They win game 2 in a walk-off 5-3. And then today fall 7-1 to the Pirates. Now they'll have a huge series going forward. They'll play the Minnesota Twins, who is right on their heels. Right on their heels, like I told you in the standings update. They are right on their heels. A 3-game series with the Twins. 3-game series with the Twins. Huge. It's a huge series for the Guardians. Huge. And it doesn't get easier for Cleveland. It doesn't. The Guardians are gonna struggle going down the stretch. Here's why I say that. They'll have these games against Minnesota, which will start tomorrow night. 6:10 first pitch for that game. Excuse me, 6:40. It's 4-game series with the Twins. Then they go to the Trop for a 3-game set. Make their way back up to Ohio to battle the Reds to finish out the Reds series. Then they welcome the Diamondbacks in to end the month of July. They have 3 against the Reds, then 3 against the Diamondbacks, and then 3 against the Mets. Mets are playing good baseball right now. Mets are playing good baseball. Then you go to the South Side to battle the White Sox. Then you come to Detroit to battle the Tigers before you play the Padres and the Giants at home. You end the month of August on a little bit of an easy tear with the Rockies, Angels on the road, and then the Royals to end the month of August. And then you go into September. I'm going to tell you, September looks daunting. Here's why I say that. 3 games against the Blue Jays to start off September. 4 games in 3 days with the Tigers. 3 in Baltimore. That's a tough one. 3 in Minnesota. You end your home slate with 3 against the White Sox and 3 against Sacramento. And then you play Boston. In Boston. And it gets easy because you're playing the Royals at the end of the season. So you're really pushing yourself when it comes to that. You're really pushing yourself when it comes to that. And again, I mentioned it before. I will mention it before. I will say it again. The standings right now, the Guardians are sitting in second place right behind the Chicago White Sox, the Pale Hose on the south side. The White Sox are 52 and 46. The Guardians are now 52 and 48. 1 game out of first place, and they are in the wild card hunt right now. They are at above 1 game. So there is that for you. Let's look at the rest of the American League for you. The Rays still holding the top spot in the American League East, coming out of the All-Star break at 56 and 42. The Yankees, with their win tonight, improved to 55 and 44. Game and a half out of first place. They are plus 4.5 in the wild card hunt. Boston, 50 and 48. They have won 13 straight games. And I want to pull up their schedule here in just a second, see how they're doing, who they got coming up. Baltimore is in 4th at 49 and 51, and the Blue Jays 46 and 53, 10.5 out, 4.5 out of a wild card spot. In the American League West, it is the Texas Rangers holding that top spot at 50 and 49. The Mariners are at 500 at 50 and 50. Half game out, 1 game out of a wild card spot. Houston 47 and 54, 4 games out. The Sacramento Athletics are 42 and 57. 8 games out of first place, 8.5 out of a wild card, and the Angels 39 and 61, 11.5 out, 12 games out of a wild card spot. The wild card looks like this. The top 2 division winners get a bye. And of course, the 4 other teams in each league will play in the wild card spot. Right now, it's the Angels and the White Sox would have the bye. The Rangers would be the 3rd team. They would be battling the Boston Red Sox, and it would be the Yankees and the Guardians in the wild card matchup. And like I said, the Tigers 4.5 out of a wild card spot. They're still sitting there at the wild card spot going forward. And I want to get into the Queen City team, of course, the Cincinnati Reds really quickly. Red Legs coming off a series against the Colorado Rockies, a big win tonight by the score of 9-6. They now head to Seattle for a 3-game series against the Mariners and the Fraser Cranes before they head to St. Louis for a 3-game set. And then they will return back to Great American Ballpark. And Great American Ballpark will see the Reds coming back with the Pirates coming into town. And let's see here, pull up really quickly. They'll have the Pirates for a 4-game series starting on the 31st of July. And they will have the Guardians at home to end the Battle of the Ohio Cup as well. So there's that for you. 3 against the Guardians, 4 against the Pirates to end the month of July into August, and then 3 against the Sacramento A's. Then they'll have 3 in Washington to battle the Nationals, 3 against the White Sox on the south side of Chicago. The National Series is in the nation's capital, 3 against the Marlins, and then a 5-game series, against the Cardinals with a doubleheader, a day-night doubleheader on the 17th of August. So circle that if you want to do that. Then they'll head to the West Coast with 3 against the Arizona Diamondbacks, 3 against the Giants, a day off. Then they're on the north side to battle the Cubbies. And then for the end of the month of August into September, 3 against the Padres, a day off, 3 against the Brewers. And then on Labor Day, they're in LA to battle the Dodgers. And then 3 against the Brewers, 4 against the Dodgers back at Great American Ballpark, 3 against the Cubs, and the 20th of August is the final day of the final home game of the season, where they head to Atlanta for 3 and then Toronto for 3 to end the season. So yes, baseball season is coming to an end. And by the way, where the Reds stand right now in the standings as we get into the senior circuit looks like this. Of course, Milwaukee in the top spot at 62-37. The Cubs are 56-43, 6 games out of first place. The Cardinals are 51-47, 10.5 out. Pirates are 52-48, 10.5 out. And the Cincinnati Reds are 45-53, 16.5 games out of first place, 6 games out of a wild card spot. Looking at the rest of the National League right now, the Braves at 57-41, top spot in the National League East. The Phillies are 55-45, 3 games up, 3 games behind in first place behind the Braves, but they're 3 games up in the wild card standings. The Marlins are 52-48, 6 games out of first place, holding a wild card spot. The Nationals are at 500 at 50-50. And the Mets are 42-58, 16 games out of first place. National League West, the Dodgers still running that division at 63-37. The Diamondbacks 51-48, 11.5 games out. There's no way. They're only a half game out of a wild card spot. And the Padres are 49-50, 13.5 out, 2.5 out of a wild card spot. The Giants are 42-57, 20.5 games out of first place, 9.5 out of a wild card spot. And the Rockies are 40-61, 23.5 games out of first place, 12.5 out of a wild card spot. And by the way, if you're wondering, wild card standings, again, top 2 teams make it in. The Dodgers and the Brewers would be the 2 bye teams. Atlanta would play St. Louis in the first round, and it would be the Cubs and the Phillies in that. The Marlins and the Pirates would battle it out right now. If the season ended today, they're both 52-48. It would be the Pirates and the Marlins. It would be, let me see who. The Pirates would win the 3-way tie between the Cardinals, the Marlins, and the Pirates because of run differential. Run differential, the Pirates are a plus 54, the Marlins are a plus 19, and the Cardinals are a plus 4. So they're sitting on that. The Reds, again, 6 games out of a wild card spot going forward. Wanted to pull it up really quick, too. The Boston Red Sox have won 13 straight. 13 straight. That's coming off of the All-Star break, too. From before the All-Star break to now. Coming off of a huge series win against Tampa Bay. They beat Tampa. And the question is, can they continue this momentum? Now, they got 3 games against Baltimore, then 3 games against Toronto. Both teams are struggling. Can the Red Sox continue this momentum? That's a really good question. We'll see how it shakes out. 3 against the Orioles, 3 against the Blue Jays. They head to Sacramento for a 4-game series with the Sacramento A's, and then 3-game series with the Dodgers in LA. Those games at the end of the month of July. Circle those games before they're home for 3 against the Pale Hose, and then 3 against the Sacramento A's before they head back on the road for 4 against the Blue Jays and 3 against the Pirates. The end of August sees them with 4 games against the Yankees, and then into the month from the end of August into September, 3-game series against the Seattle Mariners, and then you have and this is a Boston Red Sox, we're talking really quickly, who have won 13 games straight in Major League Baseball since before the All-Star break. 4 against the Orioles, they'll come back home for 3 against the Angels, 3 against the Royals, and then they have the Rangers, Braves on the road, and they're home to finish up with 3 against the Guardians and 3 against the Cubs. So, where does that stand? Do you think that the Red Sox can continue this momentum? I think they can continue this momentum, especially with the opponents that they're facing going forward. And by the way, just to clarify, for our good friends over on the south side of Chicago, White Sox we're looking pretty, they're still holding on hope. I was rooting for your boy on the home run derby, Markawi. I was hoping for him. He kind of disappointed me a little bit, but it's good to see him. It was good to see, and the White Sox are doing okay. Still leading the division by a half game. They are on the road to play the Rangers after their series win against the Blue Jays. And then they head home to play 3 against the Astros, and then a huge 4-game series at the rate against the Yankees. Can they continue this? Then they're in Tampa, in the Trop, to battle the Rays for a 3-game series. In Boston to battle the Red Sox. Home to the Guardians. Home to the Reds. On the road to the Tigers. On the road at the north side at Wrigley against the Gubbies. They'll be taking that red line up. They'll make up a game against the Braves on the 20th. 3 against the Mets. 3 against the Rangers. A day off. 3 at Minnesota. And then they head to Houston at the end of August into September for a 4-game series there. And then 3 against the Twins. 3 against the Pirates. 3 on the road at the Cardinals. 3 on the road at Cleveland for a 4-game series with Detroit. 3-game series in Kansas City, and they end with the Rockies. Can the White Sox hold on to this division? You're going to see. We're going to see. So there is that for you. So that's all the Major League talk. I want to talk a little minor league as well too. Big happenings happening down on Washington at 425 Washington Boulevard in downtown Toledo at Fraction Field, as the Mud Hens were in action this weekend for a quick 3-game series coming off the All-Star break against the Gwinnett Stripers. They lose 2 of 3 to the Stripers in the game, losing game 1 yesterday 5-1, and then losing game 2 8-1. They win tonight on Peanuts night 6-5 in that affair, and then now they'll have a 6-game series with the Louisville Bats. And the Gwinnett series, I gotta say, was a star-studded lineup for the Gwinnett Stripers. You had Ronald Acuna Jr., you had Carlos Santana, who is making a rehab start with them, and then you had the other kid from Gwinnett that's making a rehab start. I want to pull up the final line. I forget his name off the top of my head. Oh my God. As the Stripers were walked off tonight by the Mud Hens by the score of 6-5. And yeah, it was a big game. It was big outing for Acuna. Went 0 for 2 with a sac fly, and Han Soi Kim 1 for 4 will continue their rehab assignments. They'll be back in Iowa for a 3-game series. They're going to be in Gwinnett for a 3-game series going forward after this, and the Mud Hens will be home for Louisville for 6 games starting Tuesday night. That first pitch will be 6:05. If I'm not mistaken, 6:05. I'm going to double check that really quickly for you guys. 6:05 is the first pitch. Yes, 6:05. It is Hens and Hounds night And it's probably going to be one of the best nights to do it because, 7:05. 7:05 first pitch. 7:05. I'm thinking because of the kids still from 7:05 Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then Sunday. The concluding game of the series is a 4:05 first pitch. Then they'll head to Columbus for a 6-game stand as well. Then they'll come back home to play Omaha for 6, Louisville for 6, and then they play Iowa, the Iowa Cubs for 6, head to St. Paul for 6 to the end of August, and getting into September, 6 games against Indianapolis, 6 games in Iowa, and they end the season with 6 games against the Louisville Bats. Now, I work at another establishment, and I had an interesting conversation with a gentleman. He was from the Raleigh area, and he was talking to me about, they went to the Mud Hen game last night, and they enjoyed their time. They felt bad that the Mud Hens lost that ball game, but they were a little upset that they're not seeing the Mud Hens play Durham, and they're not playing like any of the other teams because, Gwinnett is Gwinnett. It's further away than Durham. So why isn't Durham playing Toledo? I bring up this question tonight on All Andy Alfred. When is it time to go back to what it used to be for minor league baseball? Now, true, it's been since COVID that we've been doing these 6-game series with the same opponent. Major League Baseball has gone back to the 3-4 system. Why can't we do that back in minor league baseball? So we see more teams coming into this stadium where everybody's playing everybody. When your team is gone for at least 2 weeks because they're on the road. Why can't we see that? We're stuck with seeing Indianapolis and Iowa and St. Paul and Columbus and Louisville. I understand they're in our division, and Gwinnett is in our division this year, which is surprising to me. And Memphis is in our division, but we don't see Durham. We don't see Buffalo. We don't see Syracuse. We don't see Norfolk. We don't see Jacksonville. We don't see Syracuse. We don't see Lehigh Valley. We rarely see Scranton Wilkes-Barre. Hell, we don't see Charlotte. Now, here's the thing. There's been rivalries between Toledo and Charlotte in baseball because of the Governor's Cup. And I say this also because Charlotte is the affiliate of the Chicago White Sox. Why is it that Toledo does not get Charlotte to come to Toledo? Why is it? It makes sense. It's a 3.5-hour drive. 3.5 hours with the time change to Chicago. Excuse me, 3.5. 3.5, 4, depending on how the tolls are. With the time change. So why can't we have this? Why can't we go back to the 3-4 system? Why can't we? Where we can travel out and make the way around baseball. Why do we need to keep having these 6-game series? It's just enough. It's just enough. And I hope that once we get into this labor negotiation, and God willing we get baseball next year, they fix it. Please. So there's that. As you're watching and listening to All Andy Alfred tonight, right here on the All Andy Alfred Podcast Network, whether it be on Apple Music, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Bleaker, however you're listening to us, wherever and whenever you're listening to us, thank you so much for tuning in. It is that time. The schedule has been released. The NHL schedule has been released. Of course, congratulations again to the Carolina Hurricanes in winning the Stanley Cup. The big move, of course, one of the big moves is that Sergei Bobrovsky is no longer in Florida. He is now a Maple Leaf. That's a big one. And today, Connor Bedard resigns with the Chicago Blackhawks, a huge 5-year deal. And a 5-year deal worth $75 million. Imagine what that Fantilli contract's going to be, folks. Imagine it. Boone Jenner is now gone from the Blue Jackets. He is now with the Washington Capitals, and good for Boone. I wish him nothing but the best. He was a great player with us. We drafted him. He was a great player, a great locker room leader. That's great. But I want to get into what happened during the draft before we get into the schedule. All this talk with Zach Werenski leaving Columbus. I was tempted to come back on the air and talk about it. And then he backs down from this discussion. Tells Rick that he's committed to Columbus. I want to see it when I believe it. Sign the deal. Same with Scuba. Sign the deal. If you're committed to your organization, sign the deal. Same deal with Kirill Marchenko. Marchenko wants gone. Wants out of Columbus. If I was Don and Rick, play his ass. He's still got a year on his contract. Play his ass. Plain and simple. We're waiting on this Fantilli deal. Cole Sillinger, Jet Greaves are in arbitration. And I feel that ever since Rick Bowness came back, or Rick came into the Blue Jacket organization, I think Elvis wants to stay. So don't move Elvis. But now with Boone gone, you need a captain. After they moved Boone, do you think that Zach decided that he wanted to stay in Columbus because there's an opportunity for him to be captain? I think so. I honestly think so. But we shall see. We shall see. But again, the NHL schedule has been released. It's great to see 1,344 games will be played in the 26-27 season. And it will start with a triple header on the 29th of September on ESPN, with the defending champions raising the banner against the Florida Panthers. And then they will be in New York as the Rangers battle the Bruins, and then the Hawks will go out to Vegas to battle the Knights. You'll see the number 1 draft pick, Gavin McKenna, make his NHL debut on that night as the Leafs will battle the Montreal Canadiens. 7 o'clock for that one. Then Vancouver will take on Edmonton at 10 o'clock. The next night on the 30th, TNT's doubleheader will feature the Pittsburgh Penguins taking on the Philadelphia Flyers and the LA Kings taking on the Colorado Avalanche. Each team this season will play 84 games. 84. 82 of which have been announced as home openers, and they will then have that. Now, new for this year, this will be a new feature. I wanted to talk about this really quickly. They want to grow the game in Europe. They want somehow, some way. It's another one of those NFL, pardon my language, NFL bullshit things that they're doing. Monday, there will be numerous games this season that the NHL will play, and I'm going to pull it up here really quickly. That the NHL is going to play during the day on Mondays to make it Europeans get prime time games. And I'll make mention of a few games here in just a second because of it. Other notable games, of course, the Kraken are going to play Carolina in Helsinki, Finland, and the Hawks will travel to play Ottawa in Germany. The first outdoor game will be October 25th. Winnipeg taking on Montreal in the Tim Hortons Heritage Classic. Of course, the Winter Classic this year will be in Utah as the Mammoths will take on the Avalanche, and the Dallas Stars will play the Vegas Golden Knights in the Naval Credit Union Series at Jerry World. All-Star Game is back this year. It will be at UBS in New York, February 4th, 5th, and 6th. And that week, by the way, that whole week, no NHL hockey. Be prepared for that, folks. No NHL hockey for that. There will be 2 days where all 32 teams will be in action. That'll be October 13th and April 10th. Now, let's talk about the Blue Jackets. Let's talk about the Jackets schedule. I'm excited for this season. I'm hopeful for this season. And it's not a bad-looking schedule. It's not a bad-looking schedule this season. I'm going to open it up for you guys. Here we go. We open October 1st with the Buffalo Sabres. Then battle the next, and 2 nights later against the Utah Man. We open with a 3-game homestand. Buffalo, Utah, and Pittsburgh. Before our first road game in St. Louis against the Blues. Come back home Tuesday, October 13th, where all 32 teams will play. The Jackets will play the Florida Panthers at 6:15. Remember that, 6:15 for that one. Then they're home to the Rangers on the 17th. The next night is a back-to-back. They'll be in Minnesota to battle the Wild. Gavin McKenna and Sergei Bobrovsky and the Toronto Maple Leafs come to the Schwide October 20th, 7 o'clock puck drop. And then on that Saturday, it will be Vegas in town. And then a huge 3-game road trip where they're in Philadelphia, Carolina, and Dallas to end the month of October. You get into November for the Jackets. Tuesday, November 3rd, in Colorado, at home against Colorado. 2 nights later against Dallas. And then the back-to-back against Buffalo. Then a 3-game homestand to the middle of November. Florida, Tampa, Philadelphia. The road schedule, they'll go on the road the following week. Islanders, Chicago, the Hawks. I don't understand this routing. Listen to this routing. Chicago, it's the Islanders, then Chicago, then Toronto, then back to Jersey. The week of Thanksgiving. And then they play home and home, basically, with the Devils the night before Thanksgiving against the Devils. Then November 27th, Jackets, Red Wings, at Nationwide, 3 p.m. If that game is not on national television, I don't know what. And then they're in Pittsburgh to battle the Penguins to end the month of November. Notable game also in December. They will be in Carolina, Nashville, and then Tampa before they have a huge homestand, 2-game homestand before they hit the back-to-back. Now, I want to make a mention of this really quickly. December 12th, a game against Montreal. This is a huge one. If you want to go to this one, this is a great... You know how the weather is sometimes, how it is in Ohio, in Northwest Ohio, and in Ohio, and in the Great Lakes region. This is a good one to go to. December 12th, Montreal at Nationwide, 1 o'clock puck drop. Game ends by 2:30, 3 o'clock. You could be home. If you're in Toledo, you could be home by about 5:36. You're going to beat a little bit of the traffic. You're not going to get any of the darkness. You'll be fine with that. But again, and then they'll play the Rangers the next night. Then a 3-game homestand with Carolina, Seattle with Everett Fitzhugh, and the LA Kings. They'll then head to Philadelphia for a back-to-back with the Flyers, and then Montreal comes back to Nationwide on the 22nd, the final game before Christmas. The game after Christmas, they're in Washington to battle the Capitals, home the next night to play Connor Bedard and the Edmonton Oilers. Then they're in Montreal to battle the Canadiens. And then on New Year's Eve, Jackets, Capitals, 2 p.m. to end 2026. 2027 looks like this. January. First game against Boston is on January 2nd. Then a home-and-home with the Rangers. Then in New Jersey, home to back-to-back with Jersey and Buffalo at home. And then the Western Canadian Washington trip, as they'll be in Calgary, in Edmonton, Hockey Night, formerly Hockey Night in Canada. They'll be in Vancouver, and I'll get to about Hockey Night in Canada here in just a second. I forgot I wanted to mention that. Vancouver on Saturday, and then on Monday against Seattle, that puck drop, a 4 o'clock puck drop, which will be 1 o'clock, 1 o'clock Seattle time. So there's that. There's their afternoon game on a Monday. Calgary at home, on the road at Ottawa, home to Anaheim, on the road to Boston, Winnipeg on the 28th, and then January 30th, the final game before the All-Star break against the Detroit Red Wings in Nationwide. February sees the first week of February. Everybody's off, and then the All-Star game is the 5th and 6th of February. Jackets come back from the All-Star break with games at Toronto, at Ottawa, home to Ottawa, on the road to Boston, and then the Rocky Mountain trip, as it'll be Colorado, Utah, and then Vegas, and then a long homestand where they'll be playing Nashville, the Islanders, Devils, and Islanders at Nationwide. March looks decent for the Jackets. They'll have the California trip in that one, March 3rd, 5th, and 7th, which will be San Jose, LA, and Anaheim on Sunday. And then March 11th, at home against Vancouver, at home that Saturday against San Jose, the 16th, at home against Pittsburgh, and then 50 minutes from here, the Jackets travel to the Slice to take on the Red Wings. Yes, the Red Wings and the Jackets play 3 times, 2 of which this season will be at Nationwide. On the road to Winnipeg, on the road to Pittsburgh. I know my cousin Nick is going to be excited for this one. Thursday, March 25th, 7 o'clock, Hawks, Jackets, Nationwide. They'll play the Blues on the 27th. On the road to end the month of March in Florida, and then you get into April in Tampa, in Washington. The final homestand will see Washington on the 6th of April, and on the 8th of April is the Flyers. They end in New York, battling the Islanders on the 10th. And that is the schedule for the Columbus Blue Jackets for the 26-27 campaign. So there is that. And you can go onto the NHL's website and take a look at all the schedules of that. But I wanted to get also into this with regarding of the NHL as well too. And the big announcement, of course, that Hockey Night in Canada is no more on CBC. And it's a piece of childhood for me. A piece of childhood that we have lost now officially. And, you know, growing up as a kid on the east side of Toledo, one thing I really loved and enjoyed the most was the fact that on Saturday night you could tune in to anytime whether I was at the Storm games, whether I was at the Walleye games, whether I was out and about Saturday afternoon, I could always go at 6:30 to turn on Channel 9 or Channel 59 on my Buckeye cable, and I turn it on, and there would be CBC, and there would be Hockey Night in Canada. And you would see some of the greatest players on the ice, Matt Sundin and Wayne Gretzky and all the greats. I would be playing Crosby, and the battle of Crosby and Ovechkin began there, and the rise of Connor McDavid And all of it would take place on Hockey Night in Canada with some of the best analysts you hear out there. Elliot Friedman and Ron McLean, who would run the show, and then you would have Scott Oak and After Hours, one of the best hockey post game shows you'll ever watch. Look it up. That's probably one of the best. And he always had a great he always had the player interview that was probably one of the best. Always the best on Saturday night. They would do a 25 minutes interview with this kid, the player, and they would in depth talk about his style of play, and I loved it. But the big one for me was after the first period intermission of the Leaf game, or whatever the first game was, at the 7:00 hour. It'd be Donald Les Cherry in the coach's corner with Don Cherry, and then at the end of the Leaf game, they would bring Don on and they would do the highlights, and he would talk about everything that he was seeing, because they would sit there in the room and they watch all the games in front of them. Make a point. He talked about Boone Jenner. He talked about the kit, about when Steve Mason was making that big run for the Blue Jackets. He would make a point about it. He would talk about the Blue Jackets. He would talk about the Bruins. He would talk about all the teams. All the teams in the National Hockey League. All of them. You make a point to it. So, I love Don. And the fact that CBC is no longer the host for Hockey Night in Canada is a piece of travesty. A piece of travesty, and a piece of my childhood is gone. They're going to add more of Canadian culture sports on CBC. Gotta be kidding me. Rogers buys that rights out. If I was a cable subscriber and if I still had CBC, I'd be canceling my subscription. Hell, I got made fun of it on Twitter when I was a kid. When I was a teenager, I said, "Can we get more of the Blue Jacket games on?" Well, we give you FS Detroit and we give you CBC. That's enough hockey coverage for you. Really? That's why I'm now with Sling and I watch the NHL Network. That's why I have ESPN Plus and I watch the Blue Jackets. And by the way, when are we going to get the streaming rights for the Blue Jacket games? Who's going to have them? Because I want to know if I have to pay. Because I want to watch it, and I'm going to be watching it. Watching every single one of these games. Every single one of these games. I'm going to be watching every single one of these games. From the preseason. From the games that are going to be taking place at Little Caesars Arena when the Prospect Tournament happens. From the games that are going to be played at Nationwide. And by the way, the Red Wings and Blue Jackets are going to be playing exhibition games. Do you think, and the final exhibition game is the dress rehearsal game? That game's at Little Caesars. Do you not think that I'm going to be at that game? Absolutely. It's the dress rehearsal game. Before the season starts. You know I'm going to be there. I'm going to get the lineups all figured out. And where the lines are going to be. And who's going to be the pairings. And who's going to be our starting goaltender on October 1st when we play the Buffalo Sabres. My biggest thing is, who's going to have that streaming right for the Jackets? And how much is it going to cost me? You know, I've been alive on this planet for 36 years. 36 years on this planet. I've been a Jacket fan for 26 years now, the 26th season. You understand me. Understand me when I'm telling you this. This is it. This is the organization has to get it right. We have to do it for Johnny. You know, I've been alive on this planet for 36 years. Am I going to see my team finally lift the Stanley Cup in my lifetime? I don't know. If we could get past the second round of the playoffs, get to the conference final this year, I would be ecstatic. We win this conference final, get to the Stanley Cup final, I would be jubilant. I would take my bet and cash my bet in with my friend from college, Jake Tanner, of me streaking across the BGSU Union in a morph suit, naked underneath. I would take that bet and do it. I would get a tattoo on my arm in the Union Blue jacket. I would get that jacket logo. I would get this jacket logo on my thing. I would get that jacket logo on this arm if they win the Stanley Cup. Because we're for real. So guys, sign the deals. Get this team together. Dylan Larkin come to Columbus and play with Zach Werenski. Get it done. Yzerman's gone out of the GM. Make a deal. Send Marchenko and one other player and a draft pick to Detroit for Larkin. That happens. Book it. Get it done. Done. Get it done. I've been on this planet for 36 years. 36 years. I want to see, and I've been a fan of this team for 26 years. 26 god darn years. Make it happen. Make it happen. I ask you, just make it happen. Bring us the championship to Columbus. And bring a hockey championship to the city of Toledo. Get it done. Oh. Been bothering me ever since. So yeah, there's that. As you're watching and listening to All Andy Alford tonight right here on the All Andy Alford Podcast Network. Right here on the All Andy Alford Podcast Network, whether it be on Apple Music, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Bleaker, however you're listening to us, wherever and whenever you're listening to us. Thank you so much for tuning into the podcast tonight. Of course, I want to give a special shout out to, of course, my beautiful wife, Amanda, who's starting her new job this week in a doctor's office. I'm very, very proud of her. She's nervous, so different pace of schedule. I'm looking forward to that going forward. Also, I want to give a special shout out to my good friends over at Toledo School for the Arts. Of course, last night, a lot of us got together for a reunion. It was a 20th reunion for a lot. It'll be my 18th year graduating high school from TSA. 20 is coming in about 2 years. We already know where the barbecue is happening, so there's that for that. But again, I got to see a lot of my good friends. My great friend Chris Dyer, John and Megan Hare, John Shinover and his beautiful wife, Juliana Rose, my friend Cassandra Cardenas Spoon, Jesse, and my good friend Sydney Hall as well, and Anna Woods. All my good friends, as well as Jess Worley, who put it together, and my good friend Marshall Thompson put it together. If you need a DJ service, call him. He is absolutely fantastic. Did a fantastic job. Great opportunity to walk through the school. Got a great opportunity to catch up with everybody, get pictures, say hello. It was great to see, and it was a great time had by all. It was a great time had by all with that as well. So, that's that. Of course, remember our good friends down at the Libby Factory Outlet Store, 205 South Erie Street. The good friends there open 7 days a week, Monday through Friday, 9:30 to 5:30, Saturday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., Sunday from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Libby on the label, and they're setting your table. They have set the table right for more than 150 years. And yeah, I also want to give a shout out to my good friends over at Manhattan's, as well as my good friend Micah at Wesley's as well, too. So we will be back on the air on Thursday night to recap the Tigers series with the Cubbies, of course, and the Guardians series halfway through the Guardians series with the Twins. Also, we'll dive more into the NHL schedule and get a look ahead to the first round of the 3M Open as well. And we'll be diving in more. We're going to get more and more into the football schedule as well too. We'll first start off with the NFL as training camp is beginning, and then we'll get into college and then the high school game. And again, podcast every Sunday night now until the start of football season, and then we will have our shows regularly on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We will do a show on Thursday night to get you ready for the weekend as we're getting ready for the second half of the baseball season. It has been a true pleasure to be with you guys tonight. And I love you guys. I really, truly do. Thank you for tuning in to the show tonight. Again, Tigers fall tonight to the Angels. The Guardians fall to the Pirates. Mud Hens win in a walk-off fashion. The Yankees beat the Dodgers tonight. Fox wins at the British Open as well. And Pancake Webb wins the Greater Toledo Classic. So that's all the time I have for you tonight right here on the All Andy Alford Podcast Network. Remember, like and subscribe to our show, as well as subscribe to our regular podcast on wherever you listen to us. And remember, as always, I'm pulling for you. We're all in this together. The game of life. Keep your stick on the ice. And to the teams you root for at home. And to my teams, go Jackets! Go Walleye! Go Tigers, go Guardians, go Reds, and go Hens. And more birdies and less bogeys. Because victory is sweetest when you have tasted defeat. Have a great week, everybody. I'll talk to you Thursday for another edition of All Andy Alford. Love you, babe. Talk to you then.